Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, one and all, to another episode of the Blitz Network Radio. Today is Tuesday, January 29th, and some things never change. Sony still owns Spider-Man, the Pro Bowl still sucks, and Bobby Massey is still the Bears' right tackle.
Yeah, it's a shame that Sony still owns Spider-Man. It's not really that big a deal that the Pro Bowl sucks. And it's kind of good news that Bobby Massey is still the Bears' right tackle. So it's a nice wintry day as the Midwest completely enters the new ice age.
Yeah, I think, obviously it's a 4-year contract for Bobby Massey. No, none of the exact dollar details have been released quite yet, although we did have Ian Rappaport saying he believes it's in the market or in the area or possibly more than $8 million annual. Now, I know you just mentioned that's probably a good thing, but Rob, considering the dollar amount, and obviously we can't go off too much with not knowing every single detail, but would you say that obviously there's probably some caveats here where it's probably not a fully guaranteed 4-year deal where some of the money might be moved around to where the Bears can shorten this to 2 or 3. But overall, with this being 4 years and possibly $8 million annually, would you rate this as a good move overall for the Bears?
First of all, you can follow me on Twitter at Robert Zaglinski, and you guys can follow Twitter on Adam or at _ Adam Hess. You can follow Adam there. I don't know. I don't think the Bears had much of an option. I don't think, the Rashad Coward might be a player, for example, down the line that could be a long-term option as a right tackle, someone to invest in. But for a Super Bowl contender, I don't think I'm really comfortable with putting in a guy that only just recently made the switch to offensive line this past summer. It's not often you really find any guys that are plug and play at tackle in the 3rd or 4th round, because the Bears don't have their first two draft picks, obviously, and the tackle market is always scarce. I don't think Bobby Massey is much of a difference maker. I don't think he's bad, really. I don't think he's much of a difference maker, but considering their limited options, it's not like the Bears really could let him go. They, in my mind, did overpay for him, but they're a Super Bowl contender, and for a guy that, to me, is kind of just neutral at his job, that's fine. The rest of the offensive line can pick up the slack. He's not a liability like he was at the start.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And, like you said, they may have overpaid a little bit for him at $8 million annually. And
he's the 5th highest paid tackle.
Right. But at the same time, he did have all the leverage in this situation because, as you mentioned, the tackle market in free agency was going to be scarce. The Bears don't have high draft picks to be able to address that position. So he basically knew that he was their best option because, obviously, on Friday, I wrote an article just kind of detailing some of the guys that could have been available. But, Juwan James was a guy I put in there. He's one of the best right tackles in football. It's unlikely that the Dolphins are going to actually let him go. Trenton Brown has been good for the Patriots. It's unlikely they would let him go. So you're looking at some guys that, even the best names on the market are unlikely to actually make it to the market. And so Bobby Massey, he had all the leverage in the situation. So like you said, it might be a little bit of an overpayment, but it's kind of the reality of what the Bears had to do. Unfortunately, was to kind of make that move. And I saw it tweeted, and I don't remember who it was that said it, but just when you have a solid right tackle, when you have solid tackles in the NFL because they're such a valuable commodity, letting them leave is not the most advisable thing. And so in some ways, even though the Bears are a little cap strapped this season, it might end up being better for them that they did sort of overpay for Bobby Massey as opposed to having let him walk in detriment that right side of the offensive line.
Yeah, and it's also a statement on how much they clearly value continuity. At the moment, they're slated to bring back all 11 starters from an offense that was 20th in DVOA last year. Obviously, the goal here, it may not be directly stated or not, but the goal here is to bring back all 11 starters so they can grow and mature together in the same offense for the 2nd year in a row and actually not be a below average offense, actually be a championship level attack that doesn't have the many peaks and valleys that they did in 2018. bringing Massey back is a part of that fold. Bringing Massey back is something they probably had to do for the first 2 years. We don't, like you said, we don't have the full contract stipulations, but I'd be shocked if he has much of any guaranteed money after the first 2 years of his new deal. The next 2 years are the Bears' best chances at winning the Super Bowl. The CBA expires after 2020. We don't know if the NFL will actually miss any games, but everything's going to be up in the air after that. The next 2 years, where guys like Akeem Hicks, guys like Danny Trevathan, who are both 29, they're going to be playing their best absolute football over the next 2 years, and so much of the roster too. So Massey fits into this whole thing of the offensive growth and that championship contention. And yeah, I mean, I don't have much of a gripe with that. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, it's like you said, the continuity is such a huge thing, and Bobby Massey had his best year as a Bear last year. You mentioned not being a liability like he was in the early beginning. Obviously, in the first year of that signing, it looked like it could have been a bad thing for the Bears, but he had his best year last year, and I don't think it's necessarily any coincidence that came with Harry Hiestand taking over the offensive line, because the Bears didn't have an elite offensive line last year, but they did have a very good one. And so just continuing, like you said, continuity is going to be important. Continuing what they have, like you mentioned, bringing back all 11 starters, that's a very important thing to them. And it definitely will be something that's beneficial. And like we said, assuming that the money is, only guaranteed in the first 2 to 3 years, that lines the Bears up nicely to be able to go into the NFL draft in 2020 or 2021, or maybe even next year when they'll have 2 second-round picks and look to find a long-term solution to that position instead of keeping Bobby Massey around any longer as he enters his 30s. But sorry, go ahead.
It reminds me a lot of Prince Amukamara's deal, where he got most of his from last offseason, where he got 2 years largely guaranteed, and after that everything's up in the air, clearly painting the picture of the Bears like trying to piece in place having a developmental cornerback. Maybe they draft one this year, maybe they sign one this year to eventually replace Amukamara. To me, it's the same exact thing with Massey. Anyway.
Yeah, and it's just to kind of keep that Amukamara thing. I thought it comes to mind that they kind of already have that developmental cornerback as well, and Kevin Tolliver, who didn't have a great year last year, but wasn't necessarily bad either. So that's a good point there. But the Bobby Massey signing, obviously, that shores up the right tackle position. But we mentioned on our last podcast after the Bears loss, when we had Brad Spielberger on with us, excuse my little stumble there. He talked about how the Bears addressing the right side of the offensive line is probably one of the main priorities for this season. And as much as this might be an uncomfortable topic for some Bears fans, and as much as, this guy gets a lot of praise for his leadership and what a good teammate he is, Kyle Long is definitely a big question mark for this team, not just next year, but moving even forward into the future, because he has had trouble staying healthy in recent years, and he has, a rather expensive contract. Is there any chance you think that the Bears should cut Kyle Long cut bait and move on and go in a new direction? Or should they maybe look to restructure him? Or should they just keep him around at what he's got and, like we said before, kind of just go for that continuity?
I mean, seeing Ryan Pace's pattern with how he treats a lot of things, I see the most likely scenario being the Bears restructuring Long's contract and him agreeing to something like that, because that's typically Ryan Pace's MO. I personally would cut him because as much as Bears fans love him, as much as the city of Chicago loves him, Kyle Long hasn't been very good lately. I mean, a lot of that has to do with injuries, but that's the thing. He hasn't played a 16-game season since 2015, and now he's on the wrong side of 30. Even last year, when he started healthy, before he eventually rolled up on, I believe, his right foot against the Jets, after those first few games, to me, he was a liability. To me, he wasn't very good. Even when he was available, it's a far cry from a guy who used to be an all-pro level player, Pro Bowl level player. We've very likely seen the peak of Kyle Long as a football player, as a professional football player anyway. To me, guard is one of those positions that really isn't that hard to find. It's not something that you should strain yourself. It's not something that should be treated as, oh man, we absolutely need to keep Kyle Long here. Let's restructure his deal and see what happens. To me, you can find a guy in the 3rd round, for example, with your first draft pick of the 2019 draft, pick him, and he's a plug and play guy for a Super Bowl contender. I'm even at a restructure, I struggle at relying and trusting in Kyle Long playing a full season and being much of any of a difference maker. I have a stat that kind of illustrates this, to where the Bears were 17th and 17th and 19th respectively when running to the left and right side. So behind Charles Leno, behind Bobby Massey. In the middle of the field, they averaged 3.97 yards per carry, which was 30th in the league. You know, a lot of that probably has to do with Jordan Howard, for one, probably being a slower runner, not being as effective. A lot of that has to do with James Daniels
being young
and really kind of being weak. Cody Whitehair is probably the only guy you can count on in the middle for the Bears. And the other side was Kyle Long and Brian Witzman being, at intermittent points switching around, Witzman having to take over at the midway point. But the thing is, Witzman actually played better. The Bears actually rushed for more yards and were more effective as a more balanced offense after Witzman took over. So I'd cut Long and go find your next right guard of the future. It isn't that hard to find a guard.
Yeah, that's a good point. And, I'm glad you brought up Brian Witzman there, because that's actually what I was going to say, is that, Brian Witzman was a guy who was a free agent, and the Bears brought him in because he had experience, playing in Nagy's offense with the Chiefs. Had started, I believe he started all 16 games in the 2017 season. I may be wrong on that, but obviously, and you just mentioned the Bears ran the ball better over that spot. Obviously, running the football is not the main the main goal of what this offense is going to do. But Matt Nagy talked repeatedly about how the run game does need to improve in 2019. Go ahead.
Well, Adam, like the Rams and Patriots were 1st and 3rd in middle of the field runs, or 1st and 2nd, actually. The Saints were 3rd. So maybe it doesn't have to be the entire focus of the offense, but you do have to be able to get it going. I mean, that's clearly the trend that's happening here.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I have over the cap up here. I'm looking at Kyle Long's contract. And if their information is accurate, it does look like there would be a $5.5 million cap savings compared to just $3 million in dead cap space if the Bears were to move on from Kyle Long. Personally, though, I do think that a restructure is the best option, just because I feel like I feel like sometimes leadership is valuable, and Kyle Long isn't necessarily bad. And so they're still, and we just talked about how much the Bears value continuity. He's been, they're starting right guard for so long now, and he is clearly, probably, I still think better than Brian Witzman, even if the rushing numbers over that spot were better with Witzman at the position. So I do think that if they can restructure Kyle Long, if you would agree to that, to kind of cut down on what his cap space would be, take a little bit of a pay cut to stick around and hopefully be involved in this run where the Bears can hopefully win a Super Bowl in the next 2 years. I think that's the better solution. But yeah, I don't think it would make sense to keep him around at his full contract, because that's $8.5 million attached to a position that you're not sure that you're going to get production out of, or even a full 16 game season. And that's a really tough position to be in when you are a team that hopes to be a Super Bowl contender. And, that $5.5 million could be, if they wanted to get kind of freaky with it, could be used to sign a really good running back, like maybe like Tevin Coleman, even though he might want a little more than that, but that's just an example. There's players out there that could make more immediate impacts than what Kyle Long might bring next year if they were to use that $5.5 million for the roster.
Well, that's the perfect perspective. Long has that $8 million deal. He signed a $40 million extension back at the start of 2016, and he's still the 6th highest paid guard in football, based on average, based on guarantees. Is he the sixth best guard in football? Is he is even the sixth best right guard right now? Is he better than David DeCastro, the Steelers, the Raiders, Gabe Jackson, the Panthers, Trey Turner? Is he better than the Patriots, Shaq Mason, the Saints, Larry Warford? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. If they do keep him, they should cut that deal down. But again, to me, the continuity, like you mentioned, we keep bringing back that continuity, the aspect of what the Bears are looking for. I think the leadership is overrated here. I think, the Bears really, for example, last year had their best winning streak, winning 9 of 10 games, 8 of 9 games from October all the way until December against that loss to the Giants without Kyle Long. They did most of their damage with him not on the field. I don't know how much place he really has in this locker room, how valuable that is, as opposed to being forced to play him for a guy that's well past his prime and probably will never be the same. You like I said earlier, you can find a guard that will just as easily ingratiate himself into the culture, a younger guy, a younger, more spry guy, and just move forward with it. This isn't a knock on Long, but to me it's the end of the road.
Yeah, and like I said, kind of bringing up the question, it's a tough conversation to have because obviously Kyle Long, weirdly, even as a guard, is kind of a fan favorite, and maybe it's just because he's been a face, that's been here the longest, obviously, and been around for so long. And
because he tweets a lot.
Yeah, and that's true as well.
Personality.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it is a little bit of a difficult thing, and it's not easy. It's not an easy call necessarily because, as like you said, he's not the sixth best guard in football. But if you cut him and don't have a clear cut better player in that spot, you could end up harming the team a little bit more because there are some really good interior offensive linemen or defensive linemen, I should say, in the NFC that the Bears are likely going to have to go against next year. And obviously, like we said, Kyle Long is not necessarily one of the best guards in the game, but he's solid when he's on the field. And so that's going to be a tough spot to put your team in if you do end up having to play a Fletcher Cox or an Aaron Donald in the NFC Championship game.
Well, here's the situation. For me, James Daniels is probably going to be the Bears' best offensive lineman by the end of next year. So the onus will be on James Daniels to handle Aaron Donald and Fletcher Cox and the Saints' Sheldon Rankins, who didn't get to play in the NFC Championship game, but also had a very fantastic 2018. Daniels is going to be the premier piece of this offensive line. I think he's the special player. I think he's the guy you build around and start putting in place a kind of long-term extension. I really believe that. I don't think the Bears would want Long to block Donald or any of those premier players at this stage. Maybe not. It's not that they would necessarily have a choice. I'm sure the Saints and Rams and Eagles would be able to dictate that based on matchups, but still. Daniels is the guy that will get that assignment primarily if the Bears had their choice.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's shift topics a little bit here. Let's move on. We've mentioned the Pro Bowl being awful. It was a truly terrible game. I didn't even really watch it that much. I just kind of had it on in the background, and it was really horrible. There were some fun moments with some NFC offensive players playing defense, like Zeke Elliott and Alvin Kamara getting in at nose tackle. Even
a mockery of the game. Oh my goodness. A mockery of the game.
Even Mike Evans got in on defense and had an interception playing cornerback, which was actually, that was kind of a fun moment. And I think it was even the last play of the game, and they or not the last play of the game, but they had a little hook and lateral thing, and they returned a lot. There were some fun moments, but overall not necessarily the most enjoyable thing to watch in general. So Rob, and that brings me to an interesting point because I think we saw how important it was for some of these players, especially like on the Bears side, like Akeem Hicks and Mitchell Trubisky, talking about how excited he was to be named to the Pro Bowl as an alternate for Jared Goff, and how excited he was that Charles Leno Jr. and Cody Whitehair would be joining him. So it's clear that the players take this seriously and think it's a good thing, but it's so clearly bad. Why do you think the players take it seriously?
I think the players take it seriously in the fact that they've been recognized by someone. I mean, you can have your faults with however the voting process is, however that works, but they've been recognized as some of the best at their profession, and they get to have a week where they mingle with them and they make friendships off the field and just have fun. I mean, the Pro Bowl, it's a celebration for the casual fan. It's a celebration for these players for a past strong 4 months, a past strong season that they just had, and kind of being able to mingle and set those kinds of relationships, those long-term relationships. I know that's a really cliche and cheesy thing to say, but it's designed to have fun for the players, and it's designed to have fun for to maybe inject a little bit of personality and fun into it. The fact that the product itself, the game is bad doesn't matter, because the thing about football is when you take out the stakes of a meaningful game, so either being a regular season game or a postseason game, when you take that out, it's literally impossible for the product to be good. Some of those meaningful games aren't even good, Adam. Football is either 0 to 100. It's either 0, you're not playing, or 100, I'm going to take your head off on a sack. I'm going to take your head off on a hit over the middle. I'm gonna pancake you as an offensive lineman. There's no middle ground, and the Pro Bowl asks for just a little bit of, oh, hey, we're gonna play catch around with our friends. We're gonna do some stupid shit like Alvin Kamara, like running backs as pass rushers, and that's fine, and that's totally fine. We don't need to have another game. We don't need to have another meaningful game in January that these players clearly don't want to participate in. They don't want to beat each other up in January. That they're kind of on a little bit of a vacation, just celebrating each other, just celebrating like an NFL brotherhood. I think they take it seriously in that vein, and I think it's important to see it from that perspective.
I think of the Pro Bowl you mentioned. When there's no stakes to a game. To a football game, there is no, it's not as entertaining like you just said. And I really think of it as like the preseason, where the only thing that you're really interested in if you're tuning into these games is seeing which players might make a impact enough to make the 53-man roster at the end of training camp. But for the most part, the product is not good and the games are not fun to watch. Like I did not watch a single Bears preseason game this past year. When I heard that the starters weren't going to be playing in the third preseason game, which I did not think was a bad thing at all, I was like, okay, I mean, that removes any reason for me to care about watching that game to see how the starting unit might look. So I'm just not going to watch. And I didn't watch any preseason games. So that's a good point. And these, people talk about, the Pro Bowl needs fixing. It really doesn't need fixing, because I don't think the NFL really wants the Pro Bowl to be a ratings draw or a big product.
I mean, people still watch it though. People complain about it, but they still watch it.
Right, absolutely. But I mean, there's still, like I said, there's still some fun moments. I was genuinely entertained by watching some of these players. Like Pat Mahomes still did his Pat Mahomes stuff. He was still throwing no-look passes and, like in general, being the best quarterback in football. And he even faked out some of his own AFC receivers. Now, obviously not his actual own receivers, but just AFC teammates with some of these passes. And that was still fun to watch. And then, it was entertaining to, like I said, the hook and ladder play, not necessarily hook and ladder, but the lateral play after the Mike Evans interception, Kyle Fuller getting a pick. Like there was some stuff that was still, quasi exciting, where it's not like I was on the edge of my seat, caught up in the drama of it, but it was fun and entertaining. But it doesn't have to have stakes or be a locked in game where I feel like I'm going to live and die on every snap in order for it to be entertaining. It can just be a good time.
Exactly. Those that will complain about it, and this is a universal, I guess, claim for anything in life. I'm going to drop some advice as someone that is really in no position to give it, but I'm going to drop some advice. You don't have to watch it. You don't have to participate in the Pro Bowl. You don't have to have it on your TV. You know what I mean? Some people like it, or some people view it from the perspective you just gave of, oh, hey, there's some cool stuff. It's fine. if you don't like what the game is, if you think it's a mockery of the game, which is ridiculous in my opinion, but there are some hardcore purists of football, you don't have to pay attention to it. It doesn't mean just because you don't like it, just because you think it's a mockery of the game, doesn't mean it shouldn't exist. Because it very clearly still matters to these players that participate in the vein that it is. They clearly don't want to take it up to 100 miles per hour. So why should you? You just had Championship Sunday. Like we were discussing on the last podcast, maybe one of the best Championship Sundays ever. Super Bowl Sunday is this Sunday. You have your opportunities for games that are down to the wire, fourth quarter bonanzas. Why do you need the Pro Bowl to matter if you're even going to watch it? It makes no sense.
Yeah, and I think, too, the Pro Bowl being in between Championship Sunday and the Super Bowl, which, while a good move schedule-wise for the NFL to at least get people to watch, but then also to get – for the schedule, I should say, of the players as well. I think that kind of maybe shifted the perspective a little bit from the fans because, like we mentioned, like you just said, there's Championship Sunday and then there's a Super Bowl. And so people are so caught up in playoff football that all of a sudden they have to watch this game that doesn't matter. Whereas when it was after the Super Bowl for all those years, I don't think there was even this level of interest in the Pro Bowl because it was like, okay, the meaningful football is over. This is just a good old time after the Super Bowl. And so I think, I don't know, maybe that's just a perspective thing. Like people are somewhat caught up in, the fact that it's not that good now because of the fact that it does exist between two of the best weekends of football, ideally in the NFL schedule.
The only thing I'm mad about, Adam, the fact that Tariq Cohen didn't get to play nose tackle. The fact that Tariq Cohen didn't get to play an edge rusher. That's what I'm mad about with the
Here's the thing I'm mad about, and actually I shouldn't even say I'm mad about. It's not I actually am not mad about this. I thought it was kind of funny. I guess I shouldn't have even let it that way, but nothing in the world could be more evidence that Jason Garrett is a terrible coach than the fact that the NFC team didn't score until almost the fourth quarter. Actually, they may not have even scored until the fourth quarter.
What do they have? Like 128 offensive yards? Yeah, that matches up with Jason Garrett.
I don't even know the stats. I don't care enough about it to look up the stats, honestly. But I was sitting there watching the defense, and obviously the Pro Bowl is full of very good defensive players, and I think that the AFC defensive players clearly came to play. Jamal Adams came on a blitz and popped Mitch Trubisky, which, I mean, I don't really care that happened, but I was just like surprised that even happened in the Pro Bowl. And it was partly Alvin Kamara's fault for a terrible flea flicker toss back, but I digress. The AFC was playing defense, but it was like watching just like one of the worst offensive attacks ever. Like the NFC game plan, it was almost like Jason Garrett was designing a game plan to try to win a game and not just have fun. Like he should have just been letting Russell Wilson and Mitch Trubisky and even Dak Prescott drop back and rip passes. And instead he was like trying to run an offense to matriculate the ball down the field. And it was like, dude, what the hell are you doing? And so, like I said, nothing could provide any more evidence to me than the fact that the NFC team didn't score for so long. That's just, if I was Jerry Jones watching that game, I would have fired him on the spot. I don't care how far the Cowboys got. I would have done it.
They didn't go that far. They won one playoff game, but Jerry Jones or Jason Garrett hasn't been to an NFC championship in his entire decade of coaching with Dallas. So good luck with that. Good luck with that, Cowboys. Good luck with that, Jerry.
And they have I think you talked about it last week, but they have like one of the next obvious good, I mean, at least to us, good head coach candidates in Chris Richard. Obviously that wouldn't address necessarily the offensive side of the ball, but they seem to believe that Kellen Moore could be a good offensive coordinator and they plan on hiring him. Why not move on from Jason Garrett at this point? But we digress. One thing I want to talk about, Rob, there was some interesting quotes that came out of Pro Bowl week. I think most of the interesting stuff with the Pro Bowl obviously is from the buildup in the week, but Mitchell Trubisky said some stuff about Cody Parkey that I found very interesting. He talked about, I mean, I don't have the exact quote in front of me. I probably could hunt it down. But he talked about how they're still a team. He talked about how they support their brother no matter what. And I thought it was interesting that he called it a personal choice. And he said that several times. He was asked about it actually 2 days in a row, and both times called it a personal choice, but continued to stand by Cody Parkey basically as a teammate. Now, part of that may just be the fact that Mitch Trubisky basically is the leader and captain of this team, and it doesn't change the situation. But Trubisky clearly, while calling it a personal choice, was very evident about talking about just believing in the team aspect and supporting Cody Parkey, and never even referenced getting back to work with Cody Parkey. And like I said, it doesn't change the situation. Cody Parkey's tenure with the Bears is probably done. But do you take anything out of that for what Mitch Trubisky did, or do you think it's basically just coach/quarterback speak where he's just saying the right thing?
Well, it is quarterback speak, but quarterback speak is something that's important when you're the public face. People aren't, as much as Khalil Mack's the best player in the Bears roster and by far, people are going to look to Mitch Trubisky for his first comments on any situation, for what he thinks about what happens, be it, a kicker going on today's show after a double doink playoff loss. Whatever it is, they're going to go to Mitch Trubisky for his thoughts, and that's going to be used as the poster, as the banner for basically the unofficial statement of what the Bears believe, because he's the quarterback. He's the 24-year-old with the future, with ideally a 10-year plus career ahead of him. It speaks volumes to me then that he didn't throw Parkey under the bus directly. He essentially became the anti-Ben Roethlisberger, where his teammate probably and evidently very much disappointed him and disappointed many of the Bears players, he didn't throw him under the bus. He just, he put his support behind him. He said he believes in him. He said, oh, hey, we were about the team, whatever, like you said, but he still had a helping hand. He still had his hand on Parkey's shoulder, and that's probably one of the best developments, underrated developments for the Bears in quite a while. They have a leader that isn't going to air the dirty laundry out of the rest of the team out in public. A guy that could be a star quarterback as early as next season isn't going to criticize his guys in a light that could create drama, in a light that could create a circus, like the Steelers had this year, like the Steelers have had for the last 2 years. And, maybe this is a conversation to have too prematurely, but that's a comforting thought that the Bears aren't on the brink of a circus. I mean, they even had their own in 2014, and that was due to several guys throwing each other under the bus. So Trubisky's already nipping under the bud, and it's an emblem of how tight this locker room is and how great of a leader he is, at least to me.
What stuck out to me most was, reading the quote, it's easy to just think that, he's just saying quarterback speak too. But what really stuck out to me was that when I listened to the quote, I think the Bears actually had a video posted on Twitter, and I watched that and listened to him talk about it, and it sounds genuine. And I don't take Mitch Trubisky to be much of an actor, and so just the fact that with his voice inflection, he genuinely, I think, feels almost in some ways feels bad for Cody Parkey. Like you said, obviously he's going to be disappointed in the way this season ended. They obviously were counting on their kicker to make that kick. And Mitch Trubisky may very much disagree with him going on the Today Show and everything that he's done since then. But to me, it still sounded genuine that if Cody Parkey is Mitch Trubisky's teammate next year, Mitch Trubisky is going to have his back. And like you just said, that is a huge development for this team, because as much Jay Cutler is unfortunately the best quarterback in Bears history. And as much as I thought I liked Jay Cutler and, always hoped he could have been better, he was never even half the leader that Mitch Trubisky already is, I think. And if Trubisky ends up delivering with all the promise and ends up, like you said, being a star quarterback along with the leadership qualities he has, that's a huge development for the Bears, for him still being, entering his third year next year and still being just 25 and hopefully having a decade of football or even more left in his body to be the franchise quarterback and leader of this team. I think it's awesome.
I was having a conversation for the other perspective. I was having a conversation with one of the guys at WGN, and Akeem Hicks is kind of low key the opposite of that. he had that. I'm sure you saw it, that Instagram live video where the fan called out Cody Parkey, and he didn't seem that mad that the fan called it out. Like, oh, he was like, oh man, hey, we're live. That to me was like, oh, hey, Hicks got out his words indirectly, probably things he wanted to say after that playoff loss to the Eagles. To me, that's a little bit more of a blunt way, and it's not necessarily incorrect. Hicks is in the past, for example, in September 2017, after Mike Glennon's disastrous primetime start against the Packers at Lambeau Field on a Thursday night football game, he didn't say Mike Glennon was the problem. He didn't say Mike Glennon was playing poorly and sinking the Bears and a lot of the talent they had on defense in particular, but he was saying that there needed to be changes made. He very clearly leaned on heavy innuendo as one of the defensive leaders, as one of the best defensive ends / defensive tackles in the NFL. And everyone knew what he meant. If he had, it was the way he delivered it. So if he said Glennon needs to be benched, he's a dickhead. But he just said changes need to be made. Oh, okay. He's making a statement like it's time to listen to what Hicks said. It's time to bench Glennon. It's time to put the number 2 overall pick in. Same kind of thing here on social media where, oh, hey, the fan calls it out. We're live. But like, oh, dude, you're my guy. You're my guy. The Bears have such a healthy balance of different kinds of leadership that they know how to make their public statements, from the Trubisky style to the Hicks style. They know how to get their messages across to their teammates, to their coaches, to people in the front office. And right now, this is one of the most stable locker rooms in the NFL. And that should be very, very heartening for anybody that follows this team.
We'll return to the Cody Parkey discussion in a minute because there's some news in that regard. But I'm glad you brought up Akeem Hicks because we're going to stick a little bit to some Super Bowl quotes here. And like I said, I don't have necessarily quotes in front of me, but some stuff that I made mental notes of as I was thinking about things that we could talk about this week. So the quotes I saw coming from the Bears, and just to give you some examples here, Mitch Trubisky talked about not being able to watch the playoff games. He's only kind of checked scores and seen clips of it online, but he has not watched any playoff games since then. Akeem Hicks literally said it feels like the Bears should still be playing football. And Eddie Jackson was even asked about his injury and kind of unprompted said that he would have returned for divisional weekend. So to me, and there's plenty of other examples where the Bears kind of reference that they feel like they should still be playing, even if not outright saying it like Hicks did. But to me, listening to them talk, Rob, this sounds like a team that feels like they missed a big opportunity, be that Cody Parkey's fault or not. And that's not necessarily all their stuff was Cody Parkey related, but they missed a big opportunity. They believe they could have been in the Super Bowl. Now, hypotheticals aside, we don't have to dig into whether or not they would be in the Super Bowl, but I really think this is a team with a chip on its shoulder that is going to come out next year looking to kick some ass and take some names and make up on a missed opportunity from 2018.
Yeah, I've been on a heavy NFL documentary kick lately. I feel as if I agree with you. I feel as if that Cody Parkey miss, that playoff loss to the Eagles, will be something that's heavily featured in the 2019 Bears America's Game documentary. The documentary that features the Super Bowl champion. That's going to be seen as, oh, hey, we missed out. We're pissed. And now we're going to wreck the NFC. Now we have a bunch of experience under our belts. We have we have that taste of playoff failure. We have experience together offensively. We're bringing back the same defense. And that was our wake-up call, like, oh, hey, we have to bring it next time we get here, and we did. Yeah, like, the fact that they have this mentality, it sucks that 2018 ended that way, but it's very good for them in the midst of their Super Bowl window. Anyone who would argue otherwise is probably not seeing the whole picture.
They are returning 9 of 11 starters, at least guaranteed under contract right now on defense. And potentially, if they get creative, could bring back all 11 if they're able to re-sign both Bryce Callahan and Adrian Amos. They're positioned well. Obviously, we talked about with re-signing Bobby Massey, positioned well to potentially bring back all 11 starters on offense. They will hopefully improve the kicking situation. The offense will hopefully take a step forward. Statistically, quarterbacks in the West Coast spread type systems. And even, if you look statistically at Andy Reid style systems like in Kansas City, or even Carson Wentz in Philadelphia, or even when Andy Reid was in Philadelphia with Donovan McNabb and even Michael Vick, quarterbacks make big jumps. So all the signs point to a progression. And with a team that, the defense, with having them been so dominant, it looks like there's nowhere to go really for them but down. But obviously upgrading Chuck Pagano and listening to him talk at his press conference, he even believes this defense can be better than they were last year. He thinks that he even said, Chuck Pagano is not pumping the brakes on the hype for the Bears defense. He even said last week he thinks that this unit, the pieces are there for this unit to be the best defense ever. So he's not pumping the brakes on that. So if the Bears defense stays as good as it was, or even potentially gets better, and even if they get a little worse, they're probably not going to be a bad defense overall. With the potential progress of the offense that can be expected, I literally think you can expect that. And that extra chip on their shoulder, Rob, I definitely think that if I was a team in the NFC, the Bears seem like a team that I would not want to have to go through next year, because they're going to be playing some pissed off football, thinking about the fact that they probably could have been in the Super Bowl this year, if not for that missed kick. And again, I don't think Cody Parkey necessarily lost in that game because he didn't win them the game. If they had made that kick, they could still be playing football right now. And that's a really tough situation. And I think that the Bears are going to wear that next year, and it's going to motivate them. And like I just said, if they progress the way that we hope and can expect that they will, that could be a dangerous team.
Here's a theme I want to hammer away home, Adam. And are you ready for it? Because I think
I'm ready.
Are you ready? Pagano touched on it, and I think this is the way the Bears are going to attack it. They're not necessarily going to pick up where they left off. They're not going to go, oh, hey, we're going to do the same thing that we did. And this time we'll have a kicker that makes it against the Eagles. They're going to humble themselves. This entire offseason, late January, all the way through training camp until week 1 in September, they're going to continually humble themselves. Pagano said it that he wants these guys, he wants his defensive players to treat it like it's their rookie year. He wants them to treat this process of learning his scheme and working this process like it's their rookie year. Not like they're established veterans, guys like Khalil Mack and Hicks being all pro and Pro Bowl caliber players, superstars of the highest order. Jackson being one of maybe the best NFL ball hawk since Ed Reed, that kind of stuff. No, they're going to start from the ground up. They're going to humble themselves. And that is very key. For guys that have already accomplished so much individually, for them to climb the mountain and win a Super Bowl like we're talking about, like they very well might do next season, they have to kind of recalibrate. They have to take it all back piece by piece and then build it up back brick by brick. And I think that's a very good thing. It's going to be the same thing for the offense. It's the offense, they have a foundation set, but they're going to start from day one. They're going to start from day one. They're going to start with all the fundamentals, and both units will work in that conjunction. Humble themselves. That's the theme of the 2019 Bears. They got a little bit of that, a little bit of a piece of that humble pie against the Eagles, and that will permeate into their work and building it all back up.
I think what really set it apart for me too, like just with the Bears comments at the Pro Bowl, was that I watched some other interviews with other players who had from teams that had similar seasons, like specifically what who come to mind are Andrew Luck and Eric Weddle. And I don't mean to disparage these players, because obviously two of the best players at their positions in all of football. But Andrew Luck talked about what a fun season it was, what a fun ride for the Bears, or for the Colts, I should say. What a fun ride they had, and it was so exciting to go from being 1-5 to make the playoffs. And looking back on it, and he said, they're excited to get back to next year and hopefully get better. But it didn't seem like Andrew Luck was crushed about losing in the playoffs. And obviously they lost to the Chiefs. So, and the Colts outplayed their 6th seed and maybe shouldn't have even been in the playoffs, whatever. He didn't feel, to me, crushed to be out of the playoffs. And then Eric Weddle, I don't remember the exact quote, but basically what he said was, I was still on the number one defense in football, which of course the Ravens believe that regardless, and then said, and we still won the division, and no one can take that from me. Like wearing that all as a badge of honor. And sure, that's all fine and good. But again, his team lost in the first round of the playoffs at home in rather embarrassing fashion, and he didn't seem pissed off. The Bears, to me, even as they were talking about having a good time, when they talked about their loss and their season being over, they seemed pissed off. They seemed upset. And that is a thing, like you said, if they go back to the beginning and work it from the ground up with that piss and vinegar and that motivation of having been so close this season, or obviously in 2019 it will have been last season, that's a dangerous thing, a team with a chip on its shoulder.
Well, yeah, see, that's the crucial difference. I'm glad that you bring up Andrew Luck and the Colts. The Bears aren't going to hang up a banner for making the NFC wildcard game like the Patriots, or the Colts rather, hung up a banner for making it to the 2014 AFC Championship game. So I know that's a while back now, but there's a key contrast there. You have some pissed off Bears, to say the least. You have a little bit of a maybe ravenous Bears, the kind of those kinds of predatory Bears and like scary thriller movies. That's the ones we're going to see in September. We might be a little bit too ahead of ourselves on this hype for late January for the Super Bowl not even having been played yet, but you're already getting me riled up in that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the same time, like obviously, there's a long off season, but to me, I guess it excites me for what's still to come, because it's easy to be caught up in what happened, but it was still a fun Bears season that they had. And I think we talked about it. The best is still yet to come for these Bears. And so it's an exciting thing to at least be able to already look forward to next year and understand that these players know what's at hand. And they not only do they, think that they can compete, they expect to compete for a Super Bowl next year. And that's important, I think.
I'll tell you this.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I'll tell you this. If the Rams win the Super Bowl, the Bears are going to be absolutely pissed, because I know for a fact that they think they could have ran roughshod on that team. They had a playoff matchup set with them if they beat the Eagles, and I know you'll agree, they match very well up. They match up very well with that team, and that team that's still going to be contender in the big time contender in the NFC next year. If the Rams win the Super Bowl, that speaks well of how the Bears are going to attack next year.
Absolutely. I was just saying, we'll return. We'll go back a little bit here to where we were talking about before. We're kind of swinging back a little bit to the Cody Parkey situation. So the Bears signed kicker Redford Jones to a future/reserve contract. Basically just means that he will be under contract with the team once the new league year starts. Redford Jones, if you go, I had never heard the name before.
The greatest name of all time.
It's a good name. It's absolutely a good name.
It puts Robert Redford in my mind. But anyway, go ahead.
Continuing. But yeah, I never heard of him before. Out of football last year, undrafted free agent in the 2017 draft. Or I think it might have been 2018, but either way, undrafted, out of football. The Bears bring him in, and if you go look up his kicking stats, he was not really even that good in college. So probably not the Bears fit long-term fix, and there's potential that he won't even make it to training camp or out of training camp. But it clearly shows that the Bears are ready to replace Cody Parkey. Ryan Pace talked about how there will be competition in camp. There's obviously going to be some potential for them to address it in free agency, but the Bears are getting started early to replace Cody Parkey if that ends up being the direction that they're going to go, and it sounds like that probably is.
Let me preface my thoughts on this with my most important thought. The NFL should ban kicking, and the Bears' best efforts would be putting a motion towards the competition committee to truly ban kicking and all place kicking in all its forms.
Okay, let's return to reality now.
Let's return to reality. But that's how they would be best served. I just wanted to preface that.
It's preface.
It's funny.
It's preface.
Whatever, man. It's funny that after 4 years, Ryan Pace actually decides to properly address the kicking position. It's funny that after 4 years, I'm not going to rail him too much because he's still built one of the best rosters in the NFL. But this has always been an Achilles heel for him. Even when he had Connor Barth and Andy Phillips in the same training camp in 2017, he cuts Sandy Phillips after a family night scrimmage for struggling a little bit there, and and never really brought in other competition for Connor Barth. He gave Connor Barth the job 1 week into training camp. Before that, cutting Robbie Gould, and then not really having your a solid replacement plan in place. This year, when Cody Parkey was struggling in the midseason, it would have been fine to stick with Parkey and think it was just a little bit of a slump. But Pace didn't really look for other options either. He didn't look to maybe push Parkey a little bit. He didn't look for guys off the street who, mind you, is where you find the NFL's next best kickers, as UDFAs, not as draft picks, but as guys that you actually have to actively look for. So the fact that he's changing his tune and it isn't too late is a good thing. It's a good thing. He's looking for Redford Jones, or he has Redford Jones rather. He'll have Cody Parkey for a little bit for the time being. Maybe he'll draft a guy. Maybe he'll get some guys in camp. And let's hope the Bears don't cut competition for whoever they have 1 week into August. Let's nip an issue in the bud and actually address this position properly for what it is, because as much as it shouldn't matter, it still does.
Yeah, and unless the Bears do make a move like signing Robbie Gould, if he even makes it,
which
to free
they
agency,
objectively should if he did,
right?
But.
Absolutely, if he makes it to free agency, he absolutely that'd be number one priority almost in some ways. Obviously, I don't think kicker is the number one priority, but I think that would be such an easy lock for the Bears. To do such an easy thing. So if that does become a possibility, that's something that they absolutely should address. But barring that, there's basically no way you don't go into training camp with competition. And I'm talking like they could even roll 4 or 5 kickers deep in training camp. And I'm not really even opposed to Cody Parkey being one of those kickers. I don't think he will be. I think that, thinking back on Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace's end of year press conference, it definitely doesn't seem like they are going to want him around much longer. But even if they keep him around and bring him back into training camp, if they absolutely should roll 3, 4, 5 kickers deep in training camp and just let the best leg win. And I like you said, Ryan Pace has not had the best run with kickers here, but I think he understands, just like the players and Matt Nagy and the coaches understand, that the kicker cost them a great opportunity at the Super Bowl. Like you just said, if the Rams win the Super Bowl, absolutely. I mean, the Bears gave the Patriots a hell of a game early on this season. Just imagine all the growth that they experienced since then. The run that they went on, winning 9 of 10 games in the regular season after that loss to the Patriots. They probably could beat that Patriots team if they were to play them. So there's a lot of potential there for the Bears if they had won that game. And so Ryan Pace knows that he has to get the kicking position right now, because he cannot let kicker cost this team again. And so getting started early, even though Redford Jones was objectively bad in college, I pulled up his stats. In college, only kicked over 80% on field goals once in 3 years and just barely made it at 80.8%. So that's pretty rough. So he's not likely your long-term fix, but he's at least a guy.
Hey, he made a double doink. He
did make the double doink.
I'm not sure who that was against, but he at least has that over Parkey.
Yeah,
if he were to win the
he did make the double doink, but still, even though Redford Jones is probably not your long-term option and may not even make it to training camp, he at least is someone that already shows, like you said, that the Bears are going to work this out and make it, like they're going to find a solution here. And it's not like Redford Jones, is just, they didn't just bring him in or like, okay, yeah, you're our guy. They had a kicking tryout. They had several guys. They even had, veteran kicker Blair Walsh there, former Viking. So it's not like they just, picked this one guy. They tried out, and, Redford Jones basically won the tryout. So they're starting early, and they're going to get this right. And again, I don't think Cody Parkey will be around, but I wouldn't even be mad necessarily if Cody Parkey was still around, as long as they bring in competition and he ends up winning the job. But the Bear, again, Brian Pace knows he needs to address it, and they're starting early on doing it, and hopefully they get it right and it won't cost this team again.
If they have another tryout, they should sign Vince Papale to be their next kicker. You know Vince Papale? Do you know what I'm talking about? Or no?
Yes, the Mark Wahlberg movie.
The Mark Wahlberg movie. They should. That's the vision I get every time with a tryout. Just literally,
They should just sign Mark Wahlberg.
Some guys just like in a bar, running a bar, whatever, bartender. All of a sudden he's fantastic at football. I imagine that would be the same case with the kicker.
Rob, that's not the real Vince Papale story, right?
Is it? It isn't.
No,
I mean I'm sure it's dramatized for.
He was like he was like a semi-pro football player.
Was he really?
Yeah, look up his Wikipedia. He was like
hilarious.
He was like a.
They made him a bartender like that.
Oh yeah,
really excelled with the Eagles. That's hilarious.
Disney definitely Disneyed it up. I mean, he was like a semi-pro football player before he actually got that tryout. Like,
all right, then the Bears' next great kicker will be a bartender.
The Bears' next great kicker will be Robert Zaglinski.
Oh my God, yes! Am I gonna have my own bar by next fall too? Hell yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, dude, I'm down. If you own a bar next fall, I'm coming.
All right, yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's transition to Super Bowl picks, Rob. I know you want to do prop bets. I don't know if you have any specific ones you want to do.
I have a bunch that we can spend a little bit more time on. Some are rapid fire, who
wins the coin toss?
Okay, who wins? The Rams.
Rams, you think? Okay, I guess I just take Patriots then.
the Patriots win. If the Patriots win, they'll defer, of course. Hold on, because there's like 50 here.
Okay, yeah, just read some off.
Over under 0.5 interceptions for Tom Brady.
For Tom Brady?
Yes.
Under.
Oh, so you think he's gonna have a clean sheet? Okay.
Yeah, clean sheet.
I got definitely over. He'll have one. Aaron Donald will pressure him or something. Over under 1 interception for Jared Goff.
Over.
Yeah, he won't have a good game. Who will have the longest field goal? Rams or Patriots?
Oh, that's
if there's a field goal.
That's tough because Greg Zuerlein, that kick he made to win the game, I think it was 53-yard field goal, but that thing would have been good from 80. Like
it was a 57 and it's the longest in postseason history. Yeah,
whatever. It still would have been good from 80. But I don't know.
Steven Gostkowski is also good.
Yeah, Steven Gostkowski is really good. I think I would go with I think the Rams will have the longest field goal, and I think it's mostly because I think that the Patriots defense will have a better game. Keep them out of scoring range a little better. I think the Patriots attack will be a little better in terms of getting closer in, at least when they have to settle for field goals.
Yeah, I got to go Zuerlein still, and kind of largely the same type of reasoning. Who will the Super Bowl MVP mention first in his speech? Teammates, God, family or family member, owner, city, coach. Does not mention any of those.
Probably God. They always mention God.
I think teammates. I think, and I won't say who yet because we haven't gotten to our pick, but I think it'll be like, oh, teammates, blah, blah, blah. We did it together. We're still here, whatever.
I feel like a lot of times, though, it's always like, I got to, give praise to God and
it's always
my teammates. Like they always, they just say God first, just because, it's, the right thing to do.
It's always faith or family. I mean, I don't disagree. So I think it'll be one of those two. How many plays will Tony Romo correct during the game? Over 7.5 or over under 7.5?
Call correct before it happens?
Yeah, so, he's not actively trying to predict, but
right.
He'll have, where he's like, oh, hey, I'll go one-on-one, Rob Gronkowski here, and it happens to be a one-on-one, that type of thing.
Well, here's the thing. Okay, I heard a rumor about this. I won't say where. I don't want to plug other podcasts. But I heard a rumor, and I don't know if this is true, but apparently it seems unlikely to me, but apparently CBS is, intercepting the radio from, the coaches and just telling Tony Romo what that is, and they're like, okay, this is what the radio call was from the play, and then he's like that, and then he knows what is happening, and so he knows the call. So I'm going to go over if that's really the case. Like I said, it seems unlikely that teams are letting this happen for real, but that's just what I've heard.
Wait, so he's getting the radio call from the sideline before the play is put in?
Apparently, that's what I heard on a podcast. Like I said, I don't want to plug who it was, but they said that they were tipped. They got a little DM tip, and someone said that CBS is into the radio, like the headset radios, and like they're just telling Tony Romo what the call is, and obviously he knows offenses, and so he's like, okay, like he's able to figure that out. If that's true, it seems number one illegal, and number two, it takes away the magic of Tony Romo.
I don't think it's particularly illegal, but I do think like
it seems unlikely.
It sinks. It takes a lot of the air out of Tony Romo's the greatest broadcaster ever. He's helping me understand the game. Oh my god, like he's better than anyone.
Here's the thing, Tony. Like I think it's cool when he predicts those plays, but overall, he's not. I don't think he's a good broadcaster. I don't think he calls a good game. He makes weird noises. He's like on the reviews, he's always like, I don't know. Like he makes such weird noises.
He's like a younger Phil Simms, and that'll be a hot take for anyone listening, but he's essentially a young Phil Simms.
I still think there's potential for him to be good. Obviously, it's just a second year, but I don't know.
That takes the magic out of it, though. You just ruined the Super Bowl for me. Now I'm going to hate the Super Bowl.
I kind of hope it's not true, and in some ways I doubt it's true. Like you said, it might not be illegal, but it just seems unlikely that like that would actually be a thing happening. But it could be. But I'll still go over. I think he can get 8.
He'll over. I mean, they'll let him
120 plays run probably. I think he'll get 8 of them.
Definitely. What will Tony? So continuing on Romo, what will Tony Romo be doing at the start of the 2019 NFL season? Will he still be in his current role? Will he be coaching?
This is not some level. This isn't really a Super Bowl prop bet, but I think
in there.
I think he'll still be broadcasting.
Yeah, he'll still be broadcasting.
I don't think he's on coach level yet.
So how many times will Ted Rath be mentioned during the broadcast? And I know you don't know who that is. Yeah, Ted Rath is the Rams get back coach, the one that was featured last week. He's the guy that his literal job. I think he's paid like $50,000 or $60,000 to pull Sean McVay back when he's getting a little bit too excited during plays. There is video of this. There was a specific interview with Rath about his job. It sounds incredibly demeaning, but he's satisfied. How many times will he be mentioned? Over 3.5 or under 3.5? I think this is the only instance of a coach actually needing a get-back coach in the NFL. That's more of a college thing or in high school thing, but Sean McVay literally has a get-back coach, and his name is Ted Rath.
Wait.
How many times? Go ahead.
The over-under is 3.5?
Yes.
That is very high, I feel like. I'm taking the under on that. And also, if you're listening, Matt Nagy, and you want to get back coach, I will send you my resume. Just let me know.
$60,000. Dude. About 3 or 4 weeks vacation time. I'm all in Matt Nagy. Also, put me in there.
Let's go.
Let's go. How many times will the broadcast mention Sean McVay's age? Over under 1.5?
Probably, I'd say over.
Definitely over. Did you know Sean McVay is 33, by the way, Adam?
You know what? I did not. Thank you for reminding me. Well, I guess I did because you just reminded me, but thank you.
How long will it take Gladys Knight, I don't know who that is, to sing the U.S. national anthem? Over 147 or over under 147, so 1 minute and 47 seconds.
I don't know who Gladys Knight is. I'll take the under.
I don't know who that is. But
I'm hoping she makes the national anthem not about her. If it's about her, it'll be more than 147. But I'm gonna be optimistic.
I hope she sings a nice rendition. Whatever.
Keep it simple.
Keep it. That's what it should be. Will Gladys Knight forget or omit a word from the anthem? Yes or no?
No.
No as well. Will any player take a knee or be sitting during the anthem?
No.
I think yes, or even in the case that it was yes, I don't think CBS would broadcast it.
I don't think it'd be a big thing.
It wouldn't be a big thing, but I don't even think CBS would necessarily show it.
I think that's kind of a stupid prop bet because I think that the whole. I mean, I think we both agree with this. The whole kneeling during the anthem thing was so overblown, and it's not really that big of a deal, and also it's not really like a thing that people are paying attention to anymore. So it's kind of a weird prop bet. But yeah, I don't know. I would say no because I feel like the Super Bowl especially is like a time where like they show like camaraderie while they are like they link arms and they stand together and whatever. So I don't know. Like I said, I don't think it will matter, but I'd go no.
I'll say no too. Will any scoring drive in the game take less time than it takes Gladys Knight to sing the national anthem? Yes or no?
No.
Wait, take less time? Yes, absolutely. I think the Patriots or the Rams definitely get like a 2-minute drive.
I'm saying no. I'm saying no. I don't think any drive goes. I'm going to go even further. I don't think any drive goes less than 3 minutes. Boom.
Wow. Okay.
We're going to have. Here I got solid reasoning for this. By the way, I'm going to give it to you. Number one, the Patriots are going to try to keep the ball away from that Rams offense because the Rams offense is dangerous. At the same time, if there's one thing you can lock Bill Belichick in, it's to outcoach Sean McVay. And I don't necessarily mean that necessarily like bad about Sean McVay. Sean McVay is going to have to get creative, but I like Bill Belichick. What he does is outcoach coaches. And I think that he's going to keep the Rams guessing. And so I think even when the Rams get a rhythm going, it's going to take them a little bit. Like they're going to have to drive to score. They're not going to just score on big plays. So I think it's going to be more than – I think no one scores a drive has a scoring drive in less than 3 minutes unless they get like a big turnover on the other side of the field.
Okay. I mean, you back it up. I don't agree, but you back up your thoughts. What color will the Gatorade that is poured on the game-winning coach be? Lime green and yellow, orange, blue, red, clear/water, or purple?
This is my favorite question every year. I'm going with orange this year.
What? Please tell me you have like schematic reasoning for this.
My schematic reasoning is that every time I picture a Gatorade dump on a coach, it's always orange in my head.
I feel like it's always lime green/yellow. I think it's always that. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
Also, I think for me, I think that red is the best Gatorade color, followed by blue. But
you mean in terms of flavor or aesthetics?
Oh, like color, like flavor. Like I think I prefer red.
Blue is the best flavor. What are you talking about?
Well, I think red and blue are like my 1A and 1B. I like them both really, really well. But I think most people prefer orange Gatorade.
What color do you think Bill Belichick prefers?
Bill Belichick probably. I don't even think Bill Belichick drinks Gatorade. He probably drinks Powerade just because.
Just because. How familiar are you with Maroon 5's work, Adam? Before I ask this one, or should I ask?
I might be able to like if you named a song, I might be able to say that's a Maroon 5 song, and then there might be a few songs like there's definitely a few songs I can name that are by them, but I don't know.
What will be the first song performed by Maroon 5? So they have specific options here. I think you might be able to get most of these. One More Night, Makes Me Wonder, Sugar, Animals, Girls Like You, Moves Like Jagger, Don't Wanna Know, Maps,
Oh God,
She Will Be Loved, and This Love. So there's actually some songs back in there when they were like still good.
Yeah, I feel like they'll kick off with like a more upbeat one. And so,
I gotta go with Moves Like Jagger.
Yeah, I was saying of those options, I would definitely go Moves Like Jagger.
And I hate that song, but that would be perfect for a Super Bowl halftime show.
I really want to, like, if I may, I like She Will Be Loved. Even though I'm not a big Maroon 5 fan, She Will Be Loved is a good song. So I hope they play that.
That doesn't feel. Why would they play that for a Super Bowl halftime?
That's a really good point, but I like the song.
I also like the song. Will a non-quarterback throw a touchdown? Will we get a Los Angeles or New England special this year? Will Tom Brady even catch it if they do it this time?
Well, first of all, that wouldn't have been a touchdown, the Tom Brady one.
Well, yeah, I know, but I mean, like, okay, so will a non-quarterback? Let's parse this down. Will a non-quarterback throw a pass?
Throw a pass. Okay, throw a pass. I think yes.
I think so too. I think the Rams pull that out of their ass.
I think the Patriots might even bring it back and let Tom Brady get a little bit of redemption.
Yeah, maybe, and then watch him drop it again. Oh my God, I would revel in that. Will any touchdown be overturned by replay?
No.
Will either kicker hit the upright or crossbar and miss field goal or extra point attempt? Are we gonna get a doink in the Super Bowl?
First of all, I feel attacked.
I also feel attacked, but go ahead.
I say no. They're too good.
I say yes, man. There have been so many weird misses. Like even the Saints had I think they missed an extra point or a field goal in the NFC Championship game. I say yes. Let's continue this theme.
For the rest of my life, I will be triggered every time I see a kick hit an upright. I will be triggered by the double doink.
So you say no just because you don't want to.
For my own sanity, I can't let it happen.
And I think Greg Zuerlein's going to miss one. So I think Greg Zuerlein's going to get a nice little doink there. And it'll be crushing considering he's like the best kicker in football. Will both teams combine or score 76 or more points to break the Super Bowl record?
No.
No, absolutely not. Will either team not punt during the game?
Ooh, that's a good question. I like that one. If any team was going to not punt, I think it'd be the Patriots.
It would definitely be the Patriots. The
but
Rams.
I think no.
Will Chick-fil-A, famously noted for not being open on Sundays, and there is one inside Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, be open on Super Bowl Sunday?
Okay, this is the question I have before I answer this question. Do you know if that Chick-fil-A is open during Falcons games?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay, then I say no.
Which to me, like, it's built in a football stadium. It kind of makes no sense.
Right, it makes zero sense for it to be like
it makes zero sense.
Here's the thing. I respect, like, Chick-fil-A, some of their politics are problematic. I respect their dedication to the Sunday thing. I'm a Christian, so I respect that. But don't put it in a stadium.
It could be in a basketball stadium or a hockey stadium, with weekday games and Saturday games. But for the primary use of that stadium is football.
Yes. I went to a Christian school. So real quick, I went to a Christian college that was a Chick-fil-A on the campus. And the Chick-fil-A on the campus was like a Chick-fil-A Express, where there was like just a bunch of, they like make the sandwiches and they would just wrap them up and just drop them in like a heated tray. They should just do that. Like, they should just have one person that just works the thing, or a couple people, and they should just have a bunch of pre-made sandwiches in like a heating bay, and they can just drop them off and people still pay for them and everything. But they should just have the Chick-fil-A available.
It makes, objectively, I also have a problem with their politics, but the product is good. So I feel bad for the fans that are shelling out $3,000 and $4,000 to go, and they don't get to experience that delicious chicken. I feel bad for them.
Yeah.
Will the Super Bowl winning team end up visiting the White House? So I guess this depends on who your pick is.
This is probably going to give away my pick. I say yes.
Yes, also. Will there be a penalty for roughing the passer?
Yes.
Yes. Will there be
it will undeniably be called on Aaron Donald. And I don't say that against Aaron Donald. I just think there will be a play in which he hits Tom Brady violently, which will be good to see, but he will get called for it.
I think he's going to brush Brady and get one. So I will also say yes.
Was it D Ford that got it for like barely touching his face mask?
Yeah, it reminded me of the Leonard Floyd play against the Dolphins back in October. Will there be an onside kick attempt? No.
Okay, here's the thing. If I'm the Rams, I got to get creative to beat Bill Belichick. I got to get ballsy.
You got to get an extra possession.
Yeah, so I say yes. I think the Rams are gonna try one.
I think they'll try their tricks in other places. I don't see them doing it on special teams. I think trying to get an onside kick successful with all the new rules, especially in the Super Bowl, is way too risky, even beyond just the basic trick play. So I say no.
Yeah, but you know what? If you go, like, remember the Saints? I don't remember.
But that was before the rules changed.
Yeah, but still, if you line up for a deep kick and like just throw a couple, like just try to disguise it, like maybe even like early on in the game, put like a couple guys that like would normally be hands team dudes, put them on that side of the field, like for kickoffs, disguise it a little bit, and kick them deep, let those guys cover, and then like at one point just roll one over while the Patriots don't have their hands team out. I think it could happen. You could still make it happen, even with the new rules.
I hope for your sake, just for the surprise, but I still disagree.
I'm not putting money on this, so I just say yes.
First touchdown scorer. So there's a big list here.
I need to make a list. Wait, don't even read me the whole list. James White.
I assume you can just get someone.
Yeah, James White.
Sony Michel. First touchdown scorer for the Patriots. Okay, so we just did that. So first touchdown scorer for the Rams. Who scores first for the Rams?
CJ Anderson.
Absolutely, CJ Anderson. Running backs don't matter. Am I right? Who scores the most touchdowns in the game if there's a multiple scorer?
Julian Edelman.
Sony Michel. Over under
no, Rob Gronkowski.
You think? Okay, that's a hot one. He's been bad. He's been kind of bad.
It's fine. This is going to be. I think Rob Gronkowski is going to ride off into the sunset. He's going to have a huge game and retire.
He's going to have a huge game and then go to the Jacksonville Jaguars or something.
No, he's not going anywhere else. He's literally said he's either going to have Tom Brady throwing passes or he's going to retire. So
what? He doesn't want Blake Bortles throwing passes to him?
Blake Bortles isn't going to be the Jaguars quarterback anyway.
Okay, he doesn't want Nick Foles throwing passes to him?
Would you want Nick Foles throwing passes to you?
I would.
Lobbing those up for you to just get creamed in the secondary?
He throws some beautiful rainbows, dude. I wouldn't be mad at that. Over under 5.5 touchdowns.
Over.
Total. Definitely over. Total touchdowns in the first half. Over under 2.5.
Over.
I say under. I think this will be a second half game. I think this will explode in the second half. Going down.
Let's just make our picks. This is a lot of prop bets.
I know, but I was having fun with this.
All right.
Hold on,
Five
man.
more.
Five more non-picks. Okay, so hold on, let me pick. Will there be a special teams or defensive touchdown?
No.
Yes.
Which team?
I think the Patriots get one. Come on, man. Jared Goff against Bill Belichick with 2 weeks to prepare. Are you serious?
Yeah, but I don't think that. I don't know. I don't think that it'll result in like a pick six. I think it has to be special teams.
I think I could see a pick six. I mean, the last time the 2 years ago, Brady threw a pick six to Robert Alford. And, the Falcons didn't exactly have the greatest defense, so I could see Brady doing the same thing with like a Marcus Peters or a Aqib Talib. So it could theoretically also be the Patriots.
That Falcons defense was way better than this Rams defense, though.
That's not true.
Oh, that Falcons defense was phenomenal.
That Falcons defense was pretty average. They didn't get good until the next year.
Well, when I say phenomenal, I mean they were good. I shouldn't say phenomenal. They were good. The Rams defense is like not good.
It's Aaron Donald and like everybody else. Will there be a safety?
No. Has there ever been a safety in the Super Bowl?
Yeah, the Patriots or the 3 years ago, the Broncos and Colts first play of the game. Or no, Broncos and 5 years ago, Broncos and Seahawks. Yes.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Bad snap by the center.
I'll say this: I scored a safety in the Super Bowl in Madden yesterday. I was playing.
So there has been.
I was playing a Madden Super Bowl yesterday. Yeah,
in multiple Super Bowls. Right. So, will there be a turnover? And if so, what will that first turnover be?
Yes, and a Jared Goff pick.
Agree. Quarterback props.
Jared Goff's throwing 2 picks in this game, by the way. 2.
I think we did
earlier, so I'm saying 2.
Will Tom Brady have over under 300 passing yards?
Over.
Definitely over. Hold on. I gotta pick a really good one. Like these are all receiving. Okay. Here's my favorite.
Okay.
Who will have more rushing yards? Todd Gurley or CJ Anderson?
CJ Anderson.
Oh, I love you so much. Yes. Todd Gurley's gonna have like 14. The all-pro superstar running back is gonna have like 14 carries for.
I for the sake of like the game being fun to watch, I hope it's like Todd Gurley gets more. But I think that like this is gonna sound kind of weird, but I think that Sean McVay is kind of like, oh damn, like the CJ Anderson guy, like he's kind of tough for people to bring down. He is built like a guard and is kind of fast and holds the ball well. So
but like Todd Gurley's an athletic freak though. Yeah, so like
I think Gurley like will get like it won't be as much of a tell, but I think Gurley might be used a little bit more of like in a pass catching role, and they can kind of complement each other here.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I'm just gonna go lean with Anderson because it's just funny to me for an all-pro running back to not really matter that much in a potential Super Bowl win.
Imagine that running backs not matter or not mattering.
I've never said that before. Is that a new thing?
This is revolutionary stuff.
This is revolutionary stuff. All right, man. Picks, Super Bowl picks, and MVP.
All right. It kills me to say it all the way down to my bones, but I don't see the Rams doing it. I think you have to outcoach Bill Belichick, and that is just almost not doable. I think it takes. Here's the thing about Sean McVay.
Oh my God, I hate you so much. Oh my God, I hate you so much.
Hang on. The thing about Sean McVay, he's a good coach, but he's a creative coach. I don't know if I see him being ballsy. And as much as I don't like that word necessarily, I think you have to, I guess gutsy might be better. You have to have like guts, and you have to be able to like just take, I don't even mean like aggressiveness. You have to be risky. Like I'm talking 4th and goal and you run the damn Philly special risky to beat the Patriots. You have to make shit happen. And as much as the Rams offense is good and high powered and Sean McVay is a good coach, I just don't know if he's going to be gutsy and risky enough to make that kind of stuff happen. I hope he is, but I think the Patriots are going to win this game.
Yeah, I would really love for Tom Brady to get his 4th Super Bowl loss to Jared Goff and add to his impressive ledger of losing to Nick Foles and Eli Manning twice. I mean, for as great of a quarterback he is and the Patriots have been in the last 18 years, that would be fantastic to look back upon their entire run. Like, oh, hey, somehow they lost to Jared Goff, Eli Manning, and Nick Foles. Like, I would really love that. Like, that is something I would hang my hat on to laugh at for years upon years as a football fan, writer, whatever. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to happen. I agree with you. I hate myself for doing it. This was something that I talked about with you guys in our TBN chat. I just don't think the Rams have that great of personnel. So like last year when the Eagles were able to pull it off, that was the best team in football on both sides. They had a great offensive line.
They survived. I mean, Nick Foles is a good quarterback, but they didn't have their starting quarterback and still won the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
that shows how good they were.
They had a fantastic defense at all levels, and Doug Peterson strikes me as a top 5 coach and still a top 3, top 5 coach in football. And I would still honestly take Peterson as a head coach over McVay. Peterson is the guy with the balls. Peterson is the guy with a little bit more of experience overall, having been in the game longer. And yeah, to your point, I don't see how the Rams pull it off. The only way the Rams can pull it off is if Aaron Donald is Super Bowl MVP. So if they win, it's not going to be Goff. It's not going to be Gurley. It's not going to be someone like Robert Woods. It's going to be Donald because he rips through the interior of the Patriots offensive line.
Sorry, go ahead.
A guy like Brady, you can't beat him. You don't beat him with great edge rushers. He actually has a 118 career passer rating when getting pressured off the edge. That's better than most quarterbacks on the regular. But when he gets pressured on the interior, career passer rating 65. He's just another guy. So if the Rams do win, it literally has to come off of a superhuman performance from Aaron Donald and a little bit of help from Ndamukong Suh. Seeing how great the Patriots offensive line has been this playoff, with Ray Brady having been hit just once, I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I think it's gonna the Rams will win if they're able to basically have the Falcons Super Bowl without the collapse.
Without the complete collapse, which
right.
But the thing is, like you said, the Falcons didn't have a great defense, but they were incredibly athletic. They were flying around. I don't really see that with this defense.
There's too many holes in the Rams defense. There's so much for Brady to attack. And
yeah,
if Aaron Donald can't get home, and I mean, I don't want to make any grand statements, but if James Daniels and Cody Whitehair and Brian Winsman could keep James Daniels or Aaron Donald away from Mitchell Trubisky, I don't see Shaq Thompson and the Patriot. I know the names, but I can't think of the center and guard of the other center and guard of the Patriots.
It's David Andrews and Joe Thuney.
Thank you, those guys. I don't see them. I knew their names, but I needed a reminder. Anyway, I don't see them. I think, as much as we'd like the Bears' interior offensive line, and like you said, James Daniels is good. It's hard to. The Patriots' interior offensive line is better. I don't see them struggling that much against Aaron Donald. So Aaron Donald's going to have to go freak mode and just beat those guys' asses. And while he can do that, I don't see it happening. And so I think Tom Brady's going to pick him apart. I think it's going to be surgical to watch, but frustrating because it's just the Patriots continuing their run.
Because I hate Tom Brady so much, Sony Michel will be MVP. Oh my God, we have to end this. We have to end this now. So Sony Michel
Tom Brady will win MVP, but not deserve it. I think someone else, I think it'll be like James White or someone on the defense who has the big game. Maybe the same guy picks off Jared Goff twice and has a really good game in coverage or whatever. And it's there's someone who's that guy's Super Bowl MVP, and then they just give it to Tom Brady because he's Tom Brady.
Well, doesn't Sony Michel have 5 touchdowns in 2 games? I feel like he's the easy non-Brady pick.
Yeah, but isn't this okay, just to play devil's advocate, the Patriots also took Malcolm Butler from starting cornerback to not even playing in the damn game last year on Sunday morning.
Right.
So
Butler was an MVP when
I know. I'm just saying it's not necessarily out of the question that Sony Michel could just suddenly disappear from their game plan.
Bill Belichick has been known for crazier.
From someone who had Sony Michel on his fantasy football team this year, let me just say it's not necessarily something to lock in where you see Sony Michel have a couple of good games in a row. Doesn't necessarily mean he's going to keep doing them. He might end up disappearing from the game plan.
I have complimented the Patriots too much, even when not complimented.
I think James White is my MVP.
I wouldn't be mad at that. I don't think he got it after that incredible Falcons comeback, despite catching 20. Wait, did he? No, I don't think he did, despite catching 20 passes. So I'd be cool with that. Let's wrap this up. I'm complimenting the Patriots too much.
Yeah. Okay. Well, as Robert said earlier, you can follow Robert on Twitter at Robert Zeglinski. That's spelled Z-E-G Linsky with an I at the end. I'm Adam Hess. You can follow me on Twitter at _Adam Hess. Rob's our editor-in-chief here at the Blitz Network. I'm lead multimedia producer. Follow the Blitz Network on Twitter at the BlitzNet. Rob, what's your parting shot? Give me a parting shot.
Man, 3.5 hours left in the NFL season. I'm going to be sad, but the next 4 months are going to be fun. I'm just going to keep saying that the next 4 months should be really fun. I'm not looking as forward as much to the fall because free agency and the draft and piecing together the final pieces of a Bears Super Bowl team is still fun for me. As there are some annoying parts, admittedly, but that's still fun for me, and I hope everybody's going to come along for the ride with us. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Here's my parting shot. Screw the Patriots.
Oh, I love you.
Stay classy, everybody.